Oh, I didn't see you there. Of course, I don't see much these days. Welcome back to a second episode. Didn't think I'd get this far. No, I'm kidding. I know I would. Here in the cave, lots of things happen. And lots of things don't happen. And right now, the thing that's happened has been my wine. Where is it? There it is. So, grab yourself a glass and join me. We're going to enjoy some Bach. We're going to have a brief conversation about history. I have no degree in history. I have no education in history beyond documentaries that I absolutely love. And I have a particular affinity for the early part of World War II Pacific Theater and ancient Rome and ancient Greece. Well, I just got the movie Midway, which I have not yet watched on DVD, and I will be watching it soon. I hope it's historically accurate. I hope it's at least as good as the Battle of Midway from the 70s, which was pretty good. But the thing I wanted to touch on today was they talk about Midway as the first battle where opposing sides never saw each other. Well, it's not entirely true. First of all, there was a submarine versus a destroyer action in the battle where they did see each other. Secondly, Coral Sea, before that, in May, was the first action where they never saw each other in an open fleet action. But in Pearl Harbor itself, the opposing sides only saw each other in the air and on the ground. There was no naval action. And actually, people forget, and I don't know why this isn't taught more. The Battle of Taranto was a British attack on a French base. I'm sorry, an Italian base, where the battle fleet had been anchored, and they took down 3 or 4 battleships, and with these ridiculous swordfish biplanes that were like really World War I era stuff, and just ridiculous. And I mean, it was 2 squadrons off of 1 aircraft carrier that I believe they sunk 3 or 4 major battleships of the Italian Navy. This was a big deal. So that was the actual first. Pearl Harbor was huge, don't get me wrong. However, the devastation of the U.S. fleet, while major, was not as debilitating as people often want to say. They took down the battleships. I believe it was 8 battleships in port. 2 were sunk hopelessly beyond belief. The Arizona, which is still there, and the Pennsylvania, I believe, capsized. The rest of them were all raised and repaired and saw action before the end of the war. It also forced the Americans to move to a different style of battle, which is where the world was going anyway, which was to the aircraft carriers. Now, fortunately, none of the aircraft carriers were in port. The Enterprise, the Saratoga, Lexington, and Yorktown were all out at sea. The Hornet had not yet come to service yet. Very quickly it was coming. So the carriers were not there, and actually the Enterprise, entered port that night and did a quick refit and refuel for their equipment and supplies and such, and were back out at dawn looking for the Japanese fleet, which would have been ridiculous if they found it. 1 carrier against 6? Are you kidding me? Probably best that didn't happen. But anyway, then after that, before Coral Sea, the Americans took on a campaign of hit and run on some Japanese islands, the Marshall Islands, etc., and just to get some battle experience, and then the Doolittle Raid, and then Coral Sea, and then Midway, and then at Midway the tide really did change. Now, that was not the end of the war by any stretch of the imagination. The Japanese took a hit, but they didn't see it as the end, and we didn't see it as the end either. There was still Santa Cruz, where we lost the Hornet, and the Enterprise was damaged. And it wasn't until the industrial might of the U.S. was able to catch up and put a ridiculous number of aircraft carriers, battleships, cruisers, destroyers, submarines, etc. in the field that it really became close to the end. I'm not going to touch the politics of the A-bomb because different people can differ on how they feel about the morality and the necessity to have dropped it. But obviously that brought the end of the Pacific War. Notice I'm not talking about the European War at all. So that's... God, how did I even get into this? Anyway. That's my take a little bit, very briefly, on the Pacific War. And frankly, the men and the women, mostly the men, sorry, it was a time, not sexism, of Task Force 17, Task Force 16 at Midway went a long way towards winning the war. And then the Marianas, where we took down basically all of the aircraft. They had carriers, but no planes to put on them. At that point, it was basically, okay, we got to march in and we got to finish this off. And I've rambled enough about the war. That was only because of the movie that's coming out that I have on, or that came out, that I have on DVD, and I really ought to watch, but I haven't gotten around to yet. Because it seems I can sit down and watch a half an hour thing, but if I want to commit to a 2-hour movie, I never have the time for that. Well, yeah, whatever. With the coronavirus and we're all stuck at home, I probably have time to watch the movie now. And I probably ought to watch a movie now. So, with that, I'm going to wish you a pleasant, for me, evening. For you, by the time you see this, probably day. And go back to... Well, I'm going to go back to my wine. Oh shit, where is it? There it is. And back to my reading.